Hello everybody, Bruce here with a supplemental video for this particular exercise entitled Complete Configuring Git and GitHub. And this is in Module 2, and it's something that's going to help you, starting in week 3, clone down code from the internet, and more specifically, a code sharing site called GitHub, to Visual Studio Code to a folder on your PC or Mac. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to assume that you've done step 1, which is installing the Git software on your computer. And that's right, there is some additional software called Git that gets installed on your PC or Mac, which is going to work in conjunction with Visual Studio Code. Now, what Git does is that it's able to track any changes that you make to a file. You can then, what we call, stage that file, commit that file, and then push it back up to this cloud service called GitHub. All right, I know it's a lot. So what I've been trying to do is in Module 1, I had you sign up for a GitHub account. In Module 2 here, I'm going to have you try to clone down, make a copy of some code from GitHub. And then starting in week 3, your assignments are going to be GitHub based. You're no longer going to be zipping up a bunch of files like I had you do, like I'm going to have you do in week 2, and uploading them to Canvas. Alright? So I'm on step 2 right now. It says now that you have completed step 1, it's time to clone down a repository. So I have Visual Studio Code open right here. I'm on my PC. And then it says, once VS Code for Visual Studio Code is open, bring up the command palette. Control-Shift-P if you're on Windows, and Command-Shift-P if you're on a Mac. So I'm on my PC. I'm going to hit Control-Shift and P, and it brings up what's called the Visual Studio Code command palette. Right? And we're going to be using this a lot throughout the course, again, especially in weeks 3, Module 3 and forward. All right? So I'm going to go here, and we have the command palette open. Again, Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P if you're on a Mac. Now in the command palette, type git clone. Okay? Now, guess what? I think I haven't installed Git yet, so I'm going to type in git clone, and watch this. It's there in Visual Studio Code, but if I try to use it, look down here on the bottom right, I get an error. So what do I need to do? There's no better time than to open up a new tab and go to the URL git-scm.com, and just know that this is in Canvas. Okay, I just didn't pull that out of thin air. And I'm going to go to the right side here and click on download for Windows. And now it's going to start the download here in the lower left-hand corner in Chrome. It's done. I'm going to click on it to start it. I'm going to click yes. I'm going to click next. I'm going to take all the defaults, take all the defaults, take all of the defaults, all the defaults. A lot of defaults. Okay, and now it's going to perform the Git installation. Now, you're not going to interact with Git from anything other than Visual Studio Code. And again, don't be afraid. This is just something that we do in the software business for tracking our changes to our code. It's a good thing because we don't want to have to make copies of code all the time, like version 1 really, version 1 really final. You know what I mean? So here we go. So now I have Git installed, okay? And I'm going to close, I'm going to minimize Chrome, and I'm going to relaunch Visual Studio Code. Here I go, Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to bring up the command palette, Control-Shift-P, Command-Shift-P if you're on a Macintosh. and I'll do git clone. And now you notice I don't get that error anymore. It says repository URL. I'm at the top middle of the page here, and I'm going to bring Chrome back up, and I'm going to bring Canvas back up. And now it says paste the following URL into the box. So I am going to right click and say copy link address. Copy link address. I'm going to go into Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to paste that link in there, and then I'm going to hit enter. So let's go back to the instructions, and it says the operating system will then display a dialog box for you to select a folder to clone the GitHub repository to. So what it says, create a new folder on your desktop from the dialog box and name it test-python-repo, all lowercase. So here I am. I'm in the dialog box here. I'm in dark mode in Windows, maybe a little hard to read. And you can see here in the upper left, I have the new folder button. So I'm going to click on new folder. Actually, I'm going to cancel that for a second. Click on desktop, and then click on new folder. And what did the folder name need to be again? So it needs to be test Python repo. So I'm going to just copy that so I don't make a mistake. I don't know about you, but I make a lot of typing mistakes. So the folder, I'm going to take the space out at the beginning there, and now I'll do select repository. Test Python does not exist. Oh, guess what? Here I am. I'm doing things dumb again. So I need to put that right there. See, test Python repo. Okay. So now I'll click select repository location, and look at the lower right here. It's saying, would you like to open the clone repository? So let's open it. And now you can see in the left navigator here, I have a folder open, and inside of it, I have this hello world.py. I clicked on it, and it says this is a simple Python program. It's hello world. And here is a file called readme.md. MD stands for Markdown. Markdown is a text-based language. I'll teach a little bit about it in this course, but essentially it's what we use as programmers to write documentation without having to know HTML. Okay? So that's it. Do you see what happened? We were in Visual Studio Code on our PC. We used the command palette to do git clone. It's right there highlighted. We then entered a URL. Whoops. We then entered a URL. I'm not going to type it in here. And it then magically took code from GitHub, which is on the internet, in the cloud, and made a copy of it onto my PC. Okay? Now, going into week 3, module 3, we're going to be using GitHub. You're going to be using GitHub to clone down your assignments, make changes, and then push them back up to GitHub for me to grade. So I want you to check this out for a second. Not that I want you to do this, but watch that. Well, do I want you to do it? Let's take a look. It says, now look at the lower right. Okay, you will see an alert. Yep, we did that. It says, run the file to make sure you get the expected output. So let's do that. So I can do right click. I can do run current file, run Python file in terminal. That's one way to do it, right? I could do that. And here it is down here, hello world. You see that? The other way to do it, right, is to go to the debug menu, start without debugging. You'll learn about debugging later on in this class, but check it out. We'll get the same results right there, hello world. I like the right click, run current test file in terminal, current Python file in terminal. That's what I like to do. Bam, right there, all right? So let's go back to the instructions and run the file. Now look at the Visual Studio Code sidebar. Third one down. Looks like a tuning fork. So you see this right here? If you hover over it, it says source control. And what source means is like source code. This is like source code. Okay? So if I go in here and I change it from hello world to hello mom, right? And then I save it, which is Control S or File Save, or Command S if you're on a Mac. File, save from the menu. Okay? So you see what happened there? Look what happened. Number one is it knows that some space got added there. You see that green bar? So I don't know if you, let me see if I can Control Z back here. So this is what the file looked like before. Actually, that's what it looked like. Control Z will step backwards, just like it does in Word or Photoshop or any other application. So notice that line 5 right there is just a single blank line. 8 and 9 are single blank lines as well. On line 7, I'm going to go back to Hello Mom, and then I'm going to hit Control S or Command S or File Save from the menu. And what happened, right? The auto pep 8 stuff that I had you install for week 1, right? That took care of making adding extra space here and extra space here, because the pep 8 rules for formatting Python code like to see 2 lines between certain things, all right? But notice that these lines appeared here, okay? That's because the Git software knows that we made changes, and it knows specifically what we changed, okay? So notice here, too, it says that one file has changed. And then here, next to hello world.py, right, .py for a Python program, has this letter M here, which means modified. So it knows what we're doing. It knows which files we're touching, okay? So more on that in week 3. So what I want you to do at this point is take a screenshot of this and then upload it to the assignment in Canvas, okay? I hope this helped. There'll be more on Git and GitHub and Visual Studio Code in Module 3. Now, this program right here, right? This program says define something called hello world. Don't worry about these parentheses right now. Just know that stuff can go in there, right? And what we're doing on line 7 is we're defining a function, like a bit of functionality in our code that says anytime someone calls this thing called hello world, I want you to run this indented code inside of it called print hello mom, okay? By the way, if I try to do this, it won't work because within a function, code needs to be indented below it for it to be part of it. And down on line 11, we're calling that hello world function. We're saying, hey, take that thing that we defined and we gave a name of hello world and jump up to here and run the one statement that's in that function. And when you're done, go to line 12, which is nothing, and the program ends. All right, hope this helps. If you have any questions, find me on Slack. Thanks for watching.